They left her to die in the snow, her blood painting the forest floor crimson, but what they didn't know was that the alpha would smell it, and everything would change. The snow fell in thick, silent waves across the forest floor, each flake dissolving into the stain spreading beneath her broken body. Kira's fingers clawed weakly at the frozen ground, her breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps that sent plumes of white mist into the frigid air. Blood seeped from the gashes across her ribs, her torn clothing doing nothing to protect her from the bitter cold that sank its teeth into her flesh. Behind her, the sound of footsteps retreated, steady, deliberate, merciless. She tried to lift her head, tried to scream, but her voice came out as nothing more than a broken whisper that the wind swallowed whole. "Please," she choked out, her vision blurring as the pack's silhouettes faded into the darkness between the trees. "Please don't leave me." No one turned back. The beta's voice drifted through the night, cold and final. "She won't see sunrise. The forest will finish what we started." Kira's body trembled violently, her wolf whimpering somewhere deep inside her consciousness, too weak to surface, too broken to fight. The pack bond that had once thrummed through her veins like a second heartbeat was gone, severed, ripped away, leaving nothing but a hollow ache in its place. Her heartbeat slowed. Thump, thump, thump. The darkness crept in from the edges of her vision, warm and inviting despite the ice claiming her limbs. Maybe this was mercy. Maybe death would be kinder than the betrayal that had led her here. Her blood sank deeper into the snow, spreading like spilled ink on white parchment, and the forest held its breath. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from, we'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy werewolf stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Miles away, on the northern ridge where the pines grew so thick that even moonlight struggled to penetrate, Alpha Darius stopped mid-stride. His massive frame went rigid, his wolf surging to the surface with such violence that his eyes flashed gold in the darkness. Something was wrong. His patrol had been routine, checking borders, marking territory, ensuring the smaller packs along the boundary respected the lines that had been drawn decades ago. But now, his wolf paced frantically inside his mind, clawing to be released, snarling at something Darius couldn't yet name. Then the scent hit him. It came on the wind like a physical blow, blood, yes, but not just any blood. This was different. Ancient. Powerful. Wrong in a way that made his instincts scream and his chest tightened with an emotion he couldn't identify. His wolf wasn't just reacting, it was panicking, howling, demanding he move, demanding he run. What the hell? Darius muttered, his hands already shifting into claws as his body prepared for a threat he couldn't see. The scent pulled at him, a hook buried deep in his chest, reeling him in with invisible thread. He'd never felt anything like it, this desperate, consuming need to follow, to find the source, to protect. His beta, Marcus, jogged up beside him, concern etched across his scarred face. "Alpha? What is it?" Darius didn't answer. He couldn't. His body was already moving, his human logic overridden by the primal instinct roaring through his veins. He shifted mid-run, bones cracking and reforming as fur erupted across his skin. His wolf form was massive, black as midnight with eyes that burned like molten gold. He ran. And as he did, one thought echoed through his mind, unbidden and absolute. "Who are you?" 6 hours earlier, the pack grounds had been alive with tension. Kira had knelt in the center of the training circle, her hands bound behind her back, her head forced down by the weight of accusation. Around her, the pack formed a tight ring, their faces twisted with fear and anger. She could feel their eyes on her, could sense the shift in the bonds that had once tied her to them, disgust where there had been acceptance, hatred where there had been indifference. Elder Rowan stood before her, his weathered face hard as stone. "Kira Thorne, you stand accused of bringing misfortune upon this pack. 3 hunts have failed since you joined the hunting party. 2 wolves have been injured under your watch. The prey flee before we even catch their scent. That's not my fault." Kira's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through every word. "I've done nothing wrong. I've followed every rule, honored every tradition. Silence. Beta Soren's voice cut through her plea like a blade. He stepped forward, his expression cold and unyielding. You are an Omega. You have no right to speak unless given permission. The word hit her like a slap. Omega. The lowest rank, the expendable ones, the wolves who existed on the fringes of pack life. She'd been born into it, had spent her entire life trying to prove she was more than the label they'd given her. But in this moment, surrounded by hostile faces and closed hearts, she realized the truth. To them, she would never be more than what they decided she was. Elder Rowan raised his hand, and the crowd fell silent. The misfortune began the day you turned 18, Kira. The day your wolf emerged. Since then, our luck has soured. Our prosperity has withered. The elders have consulted the old ways, and the signs are clear. What signs? Kira's voice shook. What are you talking about? You carry a curse, Rowan said flatly. Your bloodline is tainted. Your very presence brings darkness to this pack. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Kira's heart hammered against her ribs, her wolf whimpering in confusion and fear. That's insane. My parents were loyal members of this pack. They died serving. Your parents were mistakes, Soren interrupted, his lip curling in disgust. Weak wolves who should never have been allowed to breed. And now we're paying the price for that mercy. Tears burned at the corners of Kira's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She looked around the circle, searching for a single friendly face, someone who would stand up for her, someone who would tell them this was madness. Her gaze landed on Lyra. Lyra, who had trained beside her since they were children. Lyra, who had promised they would always have each other's backs. Lyra, who had whispered secrets under the stars and sworn they were sisters in all but blood. Lyra, Kira whispered, her voice breaking. Please. Tell them. Tell them I haven't done anything wrong. For a moment, Lyra's expression flickered, guilt, maybe, or regret. But then her face hardened, and she looked away, her silence more damning than any accusation could have been. The decision has been made, Elder Rowan announced. For the good of the pack, Kira Thorne will be exiled to the Deadlands. She will be stripped of her pack bonds and left to the mercy of the forest. If the curse is truly hers, nature will claim her. If she is innocent. He paused, his eyes cold. Then the gods will show mercy. No, Kira gasped, struggling against her bonds. You can't, this is a death sentence. It is justice, Soren said simply. He nodded to two large warriors who stepped forward and grabbed Kira by the arms, hauling her to her feet. Where's the Alpha? Kira shouted, panic flooding her system. Darius would never allow this. He wouldn't. The Alpha is on patrol, Rowan said dismissively. And when he returns, he will understand that difficult decisions must be made for the greater good. They dragged her toward the forest edge, and Kira fought every step of the way. She screamed, she pleaded, she called out to anyone who would listen. But the pack remained silent, their faces carved from stone, their hearts closed to her cries. At the border, Soren leaned close, his breath hot against her ear. You should have known your place, Omega. This is what happens to those who reach above their station. Then they threw her forward, into the darkness beyond the pack's protection. She hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Behind her, she heard the sickening sound of claws on flesh, felt the sharp pain as someone struck her across the ribs, tearing through skin and muscle. Run, Soren commanded. And pray you die quickly. Kira tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. Blood poured from her wounds, soaking through her clothes, pooling beneath her. The pack bonds snapped one by one, each severance sending a wave of agony through her chest that made her scream. And then they left. They walked away, their footsteps fading, their voices growing distant, until there was nothing but silence and snow and the slow, steady rhythm of her dying heart. The forest was alive with whispers. Kira lay in the snow, her body too broken to move, her mind drifting in and out of consciousness. She could hear them, the voices of the trees, the songs of the wind, the ancient rhythms that pulsed beneath the earth. Her grandmother had told her stories about this, about how wolves close to death could hear the voice of the world itself. "You're dying," she thought distantly. "This is what dying feels like." Her wolf stirred weakly inside her, a small, frightened thing that had never been allowed to fully emerge. Throughout her life, Kira had kept it suppressed, afraid that showing too much strength would draw unwanted attention, that being too bold would mark her as a threat. Omegas were meant to be invisible, forgettable. Her wolf stirred weakly inside her, a small, frightened thing that had never been allowed to fully emerge. Throughout her life, Kira had kept it suppressed, afraid that showing too much strength would draw unwanted attention, that being too bold would mark her as a threat. Omegas were meant to be invisible, forgettable. And look where that had gotten her. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her wolf, to the part of herself she'd never allowed to be free. "I'm sorry I wasn't stronger." The wolf didn't respond. It was fading too, its light dimming like a candle in the wind. Above her, through the gaps in the trees, Kira could see the moon. It was full and bright, its silver light painting the world in shades of white and blue. She'd always loved the moon, had always felt a strange pull toward it that she couldn't explain. Her mother used to say she'd been born under a lunar eclipse, that the moon had marked her as special. But special hadn't saved her. Special hadn't made them love her. A sound cut through the silence, footsteps, but different from before. These were heavier, more deliberate. Kira's eyes struggled to focus as shapes emerged from the darkness. Wolves. Wild ones, their eyes gleaming with hunger, their bodies lean and desperate. They circled her slowly, warily, their growls low and threatening. "This is it," Kira thought. "This is how it ends." But the wolves didn't attack. Instead, they stopped, their heads tilting as if listening to something she couldn't hear. The largest one, a gray female with scars across her muzzle, stepped closer, sniffing at Kira's blood. Her eyes widened, and she let out a sharp bark that sent the others scrambling backward. The wolves turned and fled, disappearing into the forest as if they'd seen a ghost. Kira tried to understand what had just happened, but her mind was too foggy, her thoughts too scattered. The cold was everywhere now, seeping into her bones, turning her blood to ice. She could feel herself slipping away, feel the tether between her body and soul growing thinner. "Maybe this is better," she thought. "Maybe I was never meant to survive." Her eyes drifted closed. And then she heard it, heavy footsteps, different from the wolves, powerful and purposeful. The sound of something massive moving through the snow, heading straight toward her. Darius burst through the tree line in his wolf form, his paws tearing through the snow as the scent grew stronger, more overwhelming. His heart pounded with a fear he'd never experienced before, a terror that had nothing to do with battle or death and everything to do with the certainty that he was about to lose something vital, something irreplaceable. "Please," his wolf begged. "Please let us be in time." He skidded to a stop in a small clearing, his golden eyes scanning the darkness. And then he saw her. She lay in the center of a pool of red-stained snow, her body small and broken, her chest barely rising with each shallow breath. Even in his wolf form, Darius could see the extent of her injuries, the deep gashes across her ribs, the bruises darkening her pale skin, the way her fingers were blue with cold. Rage exploded through him, so violent and consuming that he threw his head back and howled, the sound echoing through the forest like a declaration of war. Every instinct screamed at him to hunt down whoever had done this, to rip them apart piece by piece until they begged for the mercy they'd denied her. But first, he had to save her. Darius shifted back to his human form, not bothering to shield his nakedness from the cold as he dropped to his knees beside her. His hands hovered over her body, afraid to touch, afraid that even the gentlest contact would shatter what little remained. "Hey," he said softly, his voice rough with emotion. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, just barely, just enough for him to see that they were the color of storm clouds, gray and turbulent and hauntingly beautiful. "Who?" she whispered, the word barely audible. Darius reached out, his hand trembling as he brushed a strand of blood-matted hair from her face. And the moment his skin touched hers, the world exploded. The mate bond slammed into him with the force of an avalanche, ancient, absolute, undeniable. It roared through his veins like wildfire, searing away every thought, every doubt, every question until there was only one truth blazing in his mind. Mine asterisk. His wolf howled in recognition, in joy, in fierce, protective fury. This woman, this broken, dying woman lying in the snow, was his mate. The other half of his soul. The one the legend spoke of, the one every alpha dreamed of finding. And someone had tried to kill her. No, Darius growled, the word coming out more animal than human. No, you don't get to die. Do you hear me? You don't get to leave me when I just found you. He pressed his hand against the worst of her wounds, trying to stem the bleeding, trying to share his warmth, his strength, his very life force with her through the bond that now connected them. His healing abilities kicked in, slower than he would have liked but still there, still fighting to knit her torn flesh back together. Kira's eyes focused on him, confusion and fear swimming in their depths. You shouldn't be here. They'll kill you too. Let them try, Darius said fiercely. He gathered her into his arms as gently as he could, lifting her against his chest. She was so light, so fragile, like holding a baby bird with broken wings. I'm going to get you somewhere safe. I'm going to heal you. And then you're going to tell me who did this. The pack, she whispered, her head lolling against his shoulder. They said I was cursed. Darius went very still. What pack? Shadow Creek. The name fell from her lips like a confession. Beta Soren, he ordered it. Shadow Creek. His allied pack. The wolves he'd sworn to protect, who'd sworn loyalty to him in return. The rage that filled Darius in that moment was cold and calculating, the kind of anger that didn't explode but simmered, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But right now, vengeance would have to wait. Right now, the only thing that mattered was the woman in his arms. He shifted back to his wolf form, carefully positioning her on his back. She was unconscious now, her breathing shallow but steady, her blood soaking into his fur. The bond between them pulsed with her heartbeat, and he used it as an anchor, pouring his strength into her, willing her to hold on. I've got you, he promised silently. I've got you, mate. Just stay with me, And then he ran, faster than he'd ever run before, racing against death itself. The pack house erupted into chaos when Darius burst through the doors. Warriors scrambled to attention, their hands going to their weapons at the sight of their alpha in wolf form, covered in blood, with an unconscious woman draped across his back. Marcus was the first to reach him, his eyes widening in shock. Alpha, what? Darius shifted mid-stride, catching Kira before she could fall, cradling her against his bare chest. His eyes blazed gold as he looked at his beta. Get healer Mara. Now. And send word to Shadow Creek. Tell Beta Soren I want him and Elder Rowan in my territory by dawn, or I'm declaring war. Marcus's jaw dropped. Shadow Creek? Alpha, they're our allies. What's going on? They tried to murder my mate, Darius said flatly, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. The gathered wolves stared in stunned silence. Mates were sacred, the most precious gift the moon could bestow. The idea that anyone would harm one, let alone attempt to kill her, was an abomination that violated every law their kind held dear. Your mate? Marcus breathed, his gaze dropping to the woman in Darius's arms. Even injured and unconscious, even covered in blood and bruises, there was something about her that commanded attention, a presence that seemed to fill the room despite her stillness. My mate, Darius confirmed, his voice leaving no room for argument. And if she dies, I'm wiping Shadow Creek off the map. Healer Mara arrived in a flurry of gray hair and efficient movement, her experienced eyes taking in the situation at a glance. Bring her to the healing room. Quickly. Darius followed her down the hallway, his warriors parting before him like water. He laid Kira on the healing table as gently as possible, his hands reluctant to leave her even as Mara began her examination. What happened? Mara asked, her hands glowing with soft blue light as she assessed the damage. They beat her, clawed her, and left her in the Deadlands to freeze, Darius said, each word clipped and hard. How bad is it? Mara's expression grew grave. Bad. She's lost a lot of blood, and some of these wounds are deep enough to have damaged internal organs. Her body temperature is dangerously low. If you'd found her even 15 minutes later. She trailed off, shaking her head. But you can save her, Darius said. It wasn't a question. I can try. But Alpha. Mara hesitated, her glowing hands hovering over Kira's chest. There's something else. Something in her blood. It's powerful. Ancient. I've never felt anything like it. Darius frowned, reaching out through the mate bond to sense what Mara was describing. And there it was, a presence in Kira's very essence, something that thrummed with old magic, with power that predated even the oldest werewolf lines. What is she? He murmured. I don't know, Mara admitted. But whatever it is, it's probably the only reason she's still alive. That power is fighting to keep her here. She looked up at Darius, her ancient eyes sharp. You need to help me. Use your bond. Pour your strength into her. An alpha's power combined with the mate bond might be enough to tip the scales. Darius didn't hesitate. He placed his hand over Kira's heart, closed his eyes, and opened himself completely to the bond. He could feel her now, not just her physical pain but the emotional wounds that ran even deeper. The betrayal. The loneliness. The lifetime of being told she wasn't enough, wasn't worthy, wasn't wanted. You're mine, he told her through the bond, pushing the words deep into her consciousness. And I want you. I choose you. Come back to me, . For a long moment, nothing happened. And then, slowly, hesitantly, he felt her respond. It was like watching a flower unfurl in fast motion, like seeing the sun break through storm clouds. Her wolf, that small frightened thing that had been cowering in the darkness, lifted its head and looked at him. And recognized him as hers. The bond flared to life, blazing between them with an intensity that made Darius gasp. Power flooded through him, not his power, but hers, ancient and vast and utterly unlike anything he'd ever encountered. For a brief, dizzying moment, he saw through her eyes, felt her memories, understood the truth that even she hadn't fully grasped. Luna blood. She carried Luna blood, the original werewolf lineage that had given birth to all their kind. It was supposed to be extinct, bred out over millennia of mixing with lesser lines. But somehow, impossibly, it had survived in her. No wonder the pack had sensed something different about her. No wonder the wild wolves had fled. She wasn't cursed, she was blessed. Sacred. The living embodiment of everything their kind held holy. And they'd tried to destroy her. Kira woke to warmth. It was the first thing she noticed, not pain, not cold, but warmth seeping into her bones, chasing away the ice that had claimed her. For a moment, she thought she was dead, thought this must be what the afterlife felt like. Peaceful. Safe. Then she heard the voices. Completely healed. Whatever you did, Alpha, it worked. I've never seen regeneration like that, especially not for wounds so severe. The bond helped. But there's more to it than that. Did you sense it? The power in her blood? How could I not? It's like standing next to the sun. What is she, Darius? A pause. Then, quietly, something we thought was lost. Something precious beyond measure. Kira's eyes fluttered open. She was lying in a soft bed, covered in warm blankets, and sunlight streamed through a nearby window. The room was unfamiliar, large and comfortable, with walls made of smooth wood and air that smelled of pine and something else, something that made her wolf stir with interest. She's awake, a woman's voice said gently. Kira turned her head to see an elderly woman with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a braid. Beside her stood a man, and Kira's breath caught in her throat. He was massive, easily 6.5 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a frame built for power. His hair was black as midnight, his eyes a striking gold that seemed to glow in the sunlight. He was handsome in a way that was almost intimidating, all sharp angles and hard lines, but when he looked at her, his expression softened into something that made her heart skip. "You," she whispered, memories flooding back. The forest. The cold. Those golden eyes in the darkness. "You saved me." "I did," Darius confirmed, moving closer to the bed. He seemed to be holding himself back, as if afraid he might frighten her. "How do you feel?" Kira took stock of her body, expecting pain, expecting the burn of her wounds. But there was nothing. She pulled back the blanket and looked down at her ribs, where the deepest gashes had been. The skin was smooth and unmarked, as if she'd never been injured at all. "I don't understand," she said. "How is this possible?" "You're tougher than you look," Darius said with a small smile. "And I may have helped a little." "A little?" Mara snorted. "The Alpha nearly exhausted himself healing you. Hasn't left your side in 2 days. 2 days. She'd been unconscious for 2 days. Kira's mind raced, trying to process everything. She should be dead. By all rights, she should have frozen in that forest, should have bled out in the snow. But instead, she was here, healed, in a stranger's home. Why? The question burst out of her before she could stop it. "Why did you save me? You don't even know me." Something flickered across Darius's face, an emotion too complex to name. "Because you're my mate," he said simply, as if it explained everything. The room fell silent. Kira stared at him, certain she'd misheard, certain her damaged brain was playing tricks on her. "I'm your what?" "Mate," Darius repeated, his golden eyes never leaving hers. "The moment I touched you, I felt it. The bond. You're mine, Kira. And I'm yours." If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment letting us know what you think so far. Will Kira accept the mate bond? What will happen when Beta Soren arrives? Share your predictions below. Kira couldn't breathe. Mate. The word echoed in her mind, impossible and terrifying and somehow, inexplicably right. She could feel it now, that thread connecting her to the man standing beside her bed, golden and warm and alive with possibility. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, growing stronger with each passing second. "No," she said, shaking her head. "That's not possible. I'm an Omega. Omegas don't get mates, especially not." She gestured at him, at his obvious power and authority. "Not Alphas." "You are not an Omega," Darius said firmly. "You never were." "What are you talking about?" "I was born." "You were born something far greater than any of them realized." Darius interrupted. He sat on the edge of the bed, close but not touching. "Kira, have you ever heard the old stories? About the first wolves? The Lunas who walked under moonlight and gave birth to our kind?" Kira frowned. "Those are just legends. Children's stories." "No," Darius said softly. "They're history. And you carry that blood, Kira. Luna blood. That's what I felt when I touched you. That's what saved your life when you should have died. That power in your veins is ancient and sacred, and it marks you as something precious beyond measure." Kira's laugh was bitter, sharp. "Precious? Is that why my pack tried to kill me? Because I'm so precious? Your pack is full of fools who couldn't recognize a gift when it was standing right in front of them," Darius growled, anger flashing in his eyes. "They sensed the power in you but didn't understand it, so they feared it. And fear makes people cruel." "They said I was cursed," Kira whispered, the memory of their words cutting deep. "That I brought misfortune to the pack." "The only misfortune was their own ignorance," Mara interjected. She moved to sit on Kira's other side, her weathered hand reaching out to pat Kira's gently. "Luna blood isn't a curse, child. It's the most powerful blessing our kind can receive. In the old days, Lunas were revered, protected, cherished. They were the heart of the pack, the source of its strength. Then why did they hate me?" Kira's voice broke on the question. Why did they throw me away like I was nothing? Because they're weak, Darius said flatly. Because true strength terrifies those who have none. Because Beta Soren and Elder Rowan are small-minded fools who would rather destroy what they can't control than admit they don't understand it. The mention of Soren's name made Kira's blood run cold. They'll come for me, she said, fear creeping into her voice. When they find out I survived, they'll come to finish what they started. Let them try. Darius said, his voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. I've already sent word. Beta Soren and Elder Rowan are being escorted to my territory as we speak. They'll answer for what they've done. You can't, Kira gasped, sitting up despite Mara's protests. Shadow Creek is your ally. If you punish them for me, you'll start a war. Then I'll start a war, Darius said simply. Kira, look at me. He waited until her gray eyes met his gold. You are my mate. That makes you my Luna, the future leader of this pack. There is nothing I won't do to protect you. If Shadow Creek wants war over this, they'll get it. And they'll lose. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it terrified her. You don't understand. I'm not worth this. I'm not worth a war or... Stop, Darius commanded, his alpha authority bleeding through the word. But then his expression softened, and he reached out to cup her face in his hands. I need you to listen to me very carefully. You have spent your entire life being told you were worthless. That you were less. That you were expendable. But every single one of those words was a lie. Tears burned at the corners of Kira's eyes. How can you know that? You just met me. Because my wolf knows, Darius said gently. Because the bond knows. Because the moment I touched you, I felt the truth of who you are, Kira Thorne. And you are magnificent. A sob broke free from Kira's chest, and then Darius was pulling her into his arms, holding her as she shattered. She cried for the little girl who'd never been good enough, for the teenager who'd tried so hard to be invisible, for the woman who'd accepted her death in the snow because she'd believed she deserved it. And Darius held her through all of it, his arms strong and steady, his voice murmuring words of comfort and promise into her hair. I've got you, he whispered. I've got you, mate. And I'm never letting you go. You don't understand what she is, Rowan said, shaking his head. There's something wrong with her blood. Something unnatural. You're right, Darius agreed, and Kira's heart sank. But then he continued, I don't understand what she is. Not fully. But I know what she isn't cursed. He took a step forward, his power radiating outward in waves that made even his own wolf step back. She carries Luna blood. Ancient, pure Luna blood that hasn't been seen in our kind for 1,000 years. You didn't sense a curse, you fools. You sensed power. And it terrified you. The silence that followed was absolute. Rowan's face had gone ashen. That's impossible. The Luna line is extinct. Clearly not, Darius said coldly. And do you know what that means? It means you didn't just attempt to murder a member of your pack. You attempted to murder a Luna. You violated the most sacred law our kind has. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes fixed on Kira. Is it true? She whispered. Are you really? Kira met her former friend's gaze, and she saw it there, the guilt, the regret, the desperate hope for forgiveness. Part of her wanted to give it, wanted to forget the pain of Lyra's betrayal. But another part, the part that had bled in the snow, that had felt the pack bonds snap one by one, wasn't ready to forgive. It doesn't matter what I am, Kira said quietly. What matters is that you all stood by and watched. You let them drag me into the forest. You let them tear me apart. And you said nothing. Lyra flinched as if struck. Kira, I wanted to help. I swear I did. But I was afraid. If I'd spoken up, they would have done to you what they did to me? Kira finished, her voice hard. Yes. They would have. And that's why you stayed silent. Because your safety mattered more than my life. Tears streamed down Lyra's face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Kira said. Lyra will come here. She'll serve in Alpha Darius's pack for 1 year. She'll see what real loyalty looks like, what it means to protect the vulnerable instead of abandoning them. Lyra's eyes widened. Yes. I'll do it. Thank you, Kira. Thank you for. Don't thank me, Kira interrupted. Earn it. Prove that you're better than the person who let me die. Darius placed a hand on Kira's shoulder, his pride in her evident. These terms are fair. Shadow Creek will comply, or the alliance between our packs is ended. Do you accept? Rowan and Soren exchanged glances. They had no choice, and they knew it. We accept, Rowan said stiffly. Good, Darius said. You're dismissed. Soren, Rowan, you have until sunset to leave my territory. Lyra, you'll report to Beta Marcus for your assignments. He paused, his expression darkening. And understand this, Kira is under my protection now. If anyone from Shadow Creek ever threatens her again, there will be no mercy. No trials. No second chances. I will burn your pack to the ground. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Alpha, Rowan said quietly. As the Shadow Creek wolves turned to leave, Kira felt something shift inside her. The girl who'd knelt in that clearing, who'd accepted their judgment without fighting back, she was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd looked death in the face and survived. Someone who'd found her mate and claimed her power. Darius waited until they were out of sight before turning to her. How do you feel? Kira took a deep breath, testing the new strength flowing through her veins. Different. Stronger. Like I can finally breathe. That's the Luna blood awakening, Darius said softly. It's been dormant your whole life, suppressed by your belief that you were less than you are. But now. He smiled. Now you're becoming who you were always meant to be. And who is that? Kira asked. My mate, Darius said, stepping closer. My Luna. The heart of this pack. When it faded, Kira felt different, not just stronger, but complete. Like a piece of herself she'd never known was missing had finally clicked into place. There you are, Darius murmured against her hair. There's my Luna. Kira pulled back just enough to look up at him, and she saw her own wonder reflected in his eyes. I can feel everything, she breathed. The pack, the territory, you. It's like I'm connected to all of it. You are, Darius confirmed. That's what it means to be Luna. You're not just my mate, you're the heart of the pack, the bridge between the wolves and the land itself. He smiled. And you're going to be amazing at it. How can you be so sure? Because I know you, Darius said simply. I've seen your strength, your compassion, your refusal to let cruelty break you. Those are the qualities that make a true Luna, Kira. Not power, not bloodline, though you have both of those in abundance, but heart. Before Kira could respond, Marcus approached, his expression carefully neutral. Alpha, the pack is gathering. They want to meet the Luna. Panic fluttered in Kira's chest. Now? I'm not ready. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Darius assured her, taking her hand. Just let them see you. Let them feel the bond. That's all they need. Together, they walked toward the pack house. As they drew closer, Kira could see them, dozens of wolves in human form, lined up in the clearing, their expressions curious and eager. Her new pack. Her people. The moment she and Darius stepped into view, a ripple went through the crowd. Wolves dropped to one knee in a show of respect, their heads bowed. The gesture was so unexpected, so overwhelming, that Kira froze. They're bowing to you, Darius murmured. To their Luna. Rise, Kira said, her voice shaking slightly. Please, rise. The wolves stood, and Kira saw it in their faces, not fear or judgment, but acceptance. Welcome. Hope. Marcus stepped forward, a broad smile on his scarred face. Luna Kira, on behalf of the Midnight Ridge Pack, welcome home. Home. The word echoed in Kira's mind, foreign and familiar all at once. She'd never had a real home before, never had a place where she truly belonged. But as she looked around at these wolves, at Darius standing proudly beside her, at the territory that hummed with life and possibility, she felt it. This was home. Thank you, she said, her voice growing stronger. I know I have a lot to learn. I know I'm not the Luna you expected. But I promise you this, I will do everything in my power to protect this pack, to honor the trust you're placing in me, and to be worthy of the bond one share with your alpha. A female wolf with red hair stepped forward. Luna, we don't need promises. We felt the power when your bond completed. We felt the land respond. You carry Luna blood, true, ancient Luna blood. That makes you exactly the Luna we need. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Darius squeezed Kira's hand. You see? They're already yours. And as Kira looked out at the faces of her new pack, as she felt the bond connecting her to Darius and through him to every wolf present, she finally let herself believe it. She wasn't cursed. She wasn't worthless. She wasn't a mistake. She was Luna. That night, Kira stood on the balcony of the pack house, looking out at the forest that stretched endlessly beneath the stars. The moon was full overhead, its light painting everything silver, and she felt its pull more strongly than ever before. Can't sleep? Darius's voice came from behind her. Kira turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, his expression soft in the moonlight. Too much to process, she admitted. Yesterday I was dying in the snow. Today I'm Luna of one of the most powerful packs in the region. It doesn't seem real. It's real, Darius assured her, moving to stand beside her. And it's just the beginning. What do you mean? Darius was quiet for a moment, his gaze distant. Your blood awakening, it's going to send ripples through our world, Kira. Other packs will feel it. They'll know that a Luna has emerged for the first time in centuries. Some will want to ally with us, to share in that power. Others. He trailed off, his jaw tight. Others will see me as a threat, Kira finished. Yes, Darius said bluntly. Luna blood is powerful, but it's also rare. There are wolves out there who would do anything to claim that power for themselves. Who would try to force a bond, or worse. Fear prickled down Kira's spine. So I'm in danger. Still. You're with me, Darius said fiercely, turning to face her fully. You're in my territory, under my protection, bound to me by a mate bond that cannot be broken. Anyone who wants to hurt you will have to go through me first. And I promise you, Kira, they won't survive the attempt. The intensity of his vow should have frightened her. Instead, it made her feel safe in a way she'd never experienced before. I believe you, she said softly. Darius's expression gentled. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. There's something else you should know. About Luna blood, about what it means. Tell me. In the old days, Lunas weren't just leaders, they were protectors. Their power didn't just strengthen the pack, it protected the innocent, healed the wounded, and maintained balance between our kind and the natural world. He paused. That's why the forest responded to you today. Why the wild wolves fled when they smelled your blood. They recognized what you are. A protector, Kira murmured, testing the word. The protector, Darius corrected. The moon's chosen. And now that your blood has awakened, now that the bond is complete, that power is going to grow. You're going to be able to do things other wolves can't even imagine. Kira looked down at her hands, half expecting to see them glowing with some visible sign of her power. But they looked the same as always, small, scarred, unremarkable. I don't feel powerful, she admitted. I feel scared. Fear is natural, Darius said. Fear means you understand the weight of what's ahead. But Kira, look at me. He waited until her gray eyes met his gold. You survived what should have killed you. You faced your abusers and chose mercy when you could have demanded blood. You accepted a bond that terrified you because you were brave enough to trust. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. Tears pricked at Kira's eyes. How do you always know the right thing to say? Because you're my mate, Darius said simply. Your heart is open to me through the bond. I feel what you feel, know what you need. And right now, you need to hear the truth, that you're extraordinary, Kira Thorne. And you're going to change our world. Kira stepped forward, closing the distance between them, and let Darius pull her into his arms. She rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, feeling the warmth of the bond wrapping around her like a shield. I'm glad you found me, she whispered. I'm glad you didn't give up. I'll never give up on you, Darius promised. Never. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms, beneath the light of the full moon. And as Kira looked out at the forest, at the territory that was now hers to protect, she felt something she'd never felt before. Purpose. She'd spent her whole life being told she was nothing, believing she had no place in the world. But now she understood the truth. She hadn't been nothing, she'd been waiting. Waiting to awaken. Waiting to find her mate. Waiting to become who she was always meant to be. Luna. And anyone who tried to threaten her pack, who tried to harm the innocent, who tried to disrupt the balance she was meant to protect, they would learn what it meant to face the moon's chosen. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change. Kira threw herself into learning everything she could about being Luna. She trained with Marcus to understand pack dynamics and combat. She worked with Mara to explore her healing abilities, discovering that she could sense injuries in others and accelerate their recovery with just a touch. She spent hours with Darius, learning the territory boundaries, memorizing the faces and names of every wolf under their protection. And slowly, carefully, she began to understand the scope of her power. It wasn't just healing or strength. It was deeper than that, more fundamental. She could sense the health of the land itself, could feel when something was out of balance. When a section of forest was dying, she knew it before anyone else. When prey animals were scarce, she could sense the disruption in the ecosystem and help guide hunters to areas where balance needed to be restored. The pack responded to her presence with a devotion that still took her breath away. Wolves who'd been strangers weeks ago now came to her with their problems, their fears, their hopes. They trusted her in a way she'd never been trusted before. And through it all, Darius was there, steady, supportive, proud. The mate bond between them grew stronger each day, deepening into something that felt less like a new connection and more like something that had always existed, just waiting to be discovered. They moved in sync, anticipated each other's needs, communicated with glances and touches as much as words. It should have been perfect. But Kira couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Some threat lurking just beyond the horizon, waiting for the right moment to strike. She mentioned it to Darius one evening as they walked the perimeter together. You feel it too, he said, not a question. Yes. It's like static in the air before a storm. Something's wrong, but I can't pinpoint what. Darius nodded slowly. Your instincts are waking up. Luna blood makes you sensitive to threats against the pack, against the balance. If you're feeling this, we need to take it seriously. But what do? We don't even know what we're facing. We prepare, Darius said simply. We strengthen our defenses, increase patrols, make sure every wolf is combat ready. And we trust that when the threat reveals itself, we'll face it together. That night, Kira dreamed. She stood in a clearing she didn't recognize, surrounded by wolves she'd never seen before. Their eyes glowed red instead of gold, and when they moved, it was with an eerie synchronization that made her skin crawl. At the center of their circle stood a woman, tall, beautiful, with silver hair that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Little Luna, the woman said, her voice like honey laced with poison. Did you think you could awaken and we wouldn't notice? Did you think you could claim such power without consequence? Who are you? Kira demanded. The woman smiled, sharp and predatory. I am Morgana of the Northern Conclave. And your blood, little Luna, belongs to me. Kira woke with a gasp, her heart racing. Beside her, Darius was already sitting up, his eyes glowing in the darkness. You felt that, he said. Not a question. It was a dream, but it wasn't just a dream, Darius finished. Someone reached out to you through the pack bond, through the Luna connection. And they wanted you to know they're coming. Kira's hands trembled. Morgana. That's what she called herself. From the Northern Conclave. Darius went very still. Morgana, he repeated, his voice hard. She's one of the old ones. Ancient. Powerful. And completely ruthless. He looked at Kira, his expression grave. She collects rare bloodlines, forces bonds with powerful wolves to steal their strength. If she set her sights on you, then we're in trouble, Kira finished. Then we fight, Darius corrected. He pulled her close, his arms strong and protective around her. She's powerful, but so are you. And you're not alone, Kira. You have me. You have this pack. And we will protect you with our last breath. Kira wanted to believe him. But as she lay back down, her head resting against Darius's chest, she couldn't shake the memory of Morgana's smile, the promise of violence in those strange eyes. The storm was coming. And when it hit, Kira would have to be ready. 3 days later, Morgana arrived. She came with an army, over 50 wolves, all bearing the mark of the Northern Conclave, all moving with that same eerie synchronization Kira had seen in her dream. They stopped at the border of Midnight Ridge territory, making no attempt to hide their presence. Darius assembled his warriors immediately. Kira stood beside him as they faced the invaders, her power thrumming beneath her skin, ready to be unleashed. Morgana stepped forward, her silver hair gleaming in the sunlight. Up close, she was even more beautiful than she'd been in the dream, and infinitely more dangerous. Her eyes, Kira noticed, weren't just red. They were crimson, the color of fresh blood. Alpha Darius, Morgana said, her voice carrying across the distance. How kind of you to gather your wolves for me. It will make this so much easier. You're trespassing on my territory, Darius said coldly. Leave now, or face the consequences. Morgana laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Oh, I don't think so. You see, you have something that belongs to me. A Luna with ancient blood, freshly awakened and ripe for the taking. Her eyes locked on Kira. Hello, little one. I've been searching for you for a very long time. Kira belongs to no one but herself. Darius growled. And she's under my protection. Your protection? Morgana's smile widened. How sweet. How noble. And how utterly futile. She raised her hand, and the wolves behind her began to shift, their bodies contorting into massive, monstrous forms. These weren't normal wolves. They were bigger, darker, wrong in ways that made Kira's instincts scream. Their eyes glowed that same crimson red, and when they moved, black smoke seemed to trail from their fur. What are they? Kira whispered. Corrupted, Darius said grimly. She's used dark magic to twist them, to make them stronger. But it comes at a cost, their humanity, their free will, their souls. And soon, Morgana said cheerfully, they'll have a Luna to lead them. With your power, Kira, I'll be unstoppable. I'll create an army of corrupted wolves and reshape our world in my image. All I need is your blood. You'll never touch her, Darius snarled, his body beginning to shift. We'll see, Morgana said. And then she attacked. The battle erupted with devastating speed. Morgana's corrupted wolves crashed against Midnight Ridge's defenders like a wave of darkness, their inhuman strength and coordination giving them a terrifying advantage. Darius shifted fully, his massive black wolf form tearing into the attackers with savage efficiency. But Kira could see they were outnumbered. For every corrupted wolf they brought down, 2 more took its place. Her wolves were fighting bravely, but they were being pushed back, overwhelmed. And through it all, Morgana watched, her crimson eyes fixed on Kira with hungry anticipation. "Come to me, little Luna," she called out. "End this. Give yourself to me, and I'll spare your pack. Refuse, and I'll slaughter them all while you watch." Kira's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to let someone stronger handle this. But then she felt it, the pack bonds, connecting her to every wolf fighting to protect her. She felt their courage, their determination, their absolute refusal to let her be taken. They believed in her. Trusted her. Were willing to die for her. And suddenly, Kira understood. She wasn't just Luna because of her blood or her mate bond. She was Luna because she was meant to protect. To stand between her pack and the darkness. To be the shield when they needed it most. Her power rose up like a tidal wave, ancient and absolute. The ground beneath her feet began to glow, silver light spreading outward in a circle that encompassed the entire battlefield. The corrupted wolves closest to the light shrieked and recoiled, their twisted forms unable to withstand the purity of Luna power. "No," Morgana hissed. "No, you're not ready for this. You shouldn't be able." "I am Luna," Kira said, her voice echoing with power that wasn't entirely her own. The moon, though invisible in the daylight sky, seemed to pulse in response to her call. "I am the protector. The healer. The balance. And I will not let you corrupt what is sacred." The light exploded outward in a wave of silver fire. It washed over the Midnight Ridge wolves harmlessly, strengthening them, healing their wounds. But when it touched the corrupted wolves, they screamed. The darkness that had twisted them burned away, leaving them collapsed and gasping, their red eyes fading back to gold. Morgana shrieked in rage. "You've ruined them. Do you have any idea how long it took to create those soldiers?" "They weren't soldiers," Kira said, walking forward through the fading light. "They were wolves. Living beings with souls and free will. And you took that from them." She raised her hand, and the earth itself responded, roots erupting from the ground to wrap around Morgana's legs, holding her in place. "That ends now." Morgana struggled against the restraints, her power flaring. But Luna magic was older, stronger, tied to the very foundation of their kind. She couldn't break free. "You can't kill me." Morgana spat. "I'm immortal. I've survived for centuries, and I'll survive this. I'll wait, and I'll plan, and eventually, little Luna, I'll come for you again." "I know," Kira said calmly. "That's why I'm not going to kill you." She knelt down, pressing her hand against the earth. "I'm going to do something far more permanent." Luna power flooded through her, into the ground, spreading out in a network that connected to every corner of the territory. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ancient law. "Morgana of the Northern Conclave, by the power vested in me as Luna, I banish you. You are hereby forbidden from setting foot on any territory under my protection. The land itself will reject you. The pack bonds will repel you. And if you try to violate this banishment, the moon herself will strike you down." The magic sealed itself with a flash of silver light. Morgana screamed as the roots released her, as an invisible force lifted her off her feet and hurled her backward, far beyond the territory boundary. The freed wolves, those who'd been corrupted, began to stir. They looked around in confusion and horror, clearly remembering what they'd been forced to do. Kira approached them slowly, her power still thrumming beneath her skin. "You're free now," she told them gently. "The corruption is gone. You can go home, return to your packs, reclaim your lives." One of them, a young male with golden fur, looked up at her with tears in his eyes. "We thought we were lost. Thought we'd never be ourselves again." "How did you?" "Luna blood," Kira said simply. "It's meant to heal, to protect, to restore balance. You were out of balance. Now you're not." The male dropped to his knees, bowing his head. "Thank you, Luna. Thank you." The aftermath of the battle left everyone exhausted but triumphant. Midnight Ridge had suffered only minor casualties, thanks to Kira's intervention. The freed wolves were given food and medical attention before being escorted safely off the territory with Darius's blessing. Word of what had happened spread quickly. A new Luna had emerged, powerful enough to defeat Morgana, compassionate enough to heal rather than destroy. That night, as Kira stood once again on the balcony, Darius approached her. "You were magnificent," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I've never seen anything like it. The way you commanded the power, the way you chose mercy even in the heat of battle. You're everything a Luna should be." Kira leaned back against him, letting his warmth chase away the lingering cold of fear. "I was terrified," she admitted. "I thought I'd fail. Thought I'd get everyone killed. But you didn't," Darius said firmly. "You trusted your instincts, trusted your power, and you saved us all. That's not luck, Kira. That's who you are." Kira turned in his arms, looking up at him. "What happens now? Morgana's still out there. She'll try again." "Maybe," Darius acknowledged. "But she'll think twice before crossing you again. You've proven yourself not just to this pack, but to every pack in the region. They'll hear what you did. They'll know what it means to have a true Luna walking among them again." He smiled. "Some will want to ally with us. Others will keep their distance out of respect. Either way, you've changed everything." "We changed everything," Kira corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Darius. Without your faith in me, without this bond." Darius's expression softened. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Then I suppose we're perfect for each other." Kira rose on her toes and kissed him, soft and sweet at first, then deeper as the mate bond flared between them, warm and golden and absolutely right. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless. "I love you," Kira whispered. "I know it's fast, I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but—" "I love you too," Darius interrupted. "I've loved you since the moment I caught your scent, since the moment the bond snapped into place. You're mine, Kira. And I'm yours. Forever. Forever." The word should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like a promise, like safety, like home. "Forever," Kira echoed. They stood together under the moonlight, Alpha and Luna, mates bound by power and choice and love. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, there would be more challenges, more threats, more wolves who would test their strength. But they would face it all together. And anyone who tried to harm Kira, who tried to steal her power or break her spirit, would learn the same lesson Morgana had learned. She was no longer the Omega they'd left to die in the snow. She was Luna. And she would protect what was hers with every ounce of power in her ancient blood. The forest thrived under Kira's influence. In the months that followed, Midnight Ridge became known as a sanctuary, a place where balance was maintained, where the weak were protected, where justice was tempered with mercy. Wolves from other packs came seeking guidance, seeking healing, seeking the wisdom of the Luna whose power had awakened something dormant in all their kind. Kira grew into her role with a grace that surprised even her. She mediated disputes, healed injuries both physical and emotional, and stood as a living reminder that strength came not from dominance but from compassion. And through it all, Darius stood beside her, her mate, her partner, her equal in every way that mattered. They built something beautiful together. Something that would last. One evening, as they walked through the forest, Kira paused at the exact spot where Darius had found her all those months ago. The snow was gone now, replaced by green grass and wildflowers that seemed to glow in the fading light. "They left me here to die," she said softly. "Right here, in this spot." Darius's arm tightened around her shoulders. "And instead, you rose. You survived. You became who you were always meant to be." Kira smiled. "Because you found me. Because you refused to let me go." "Always," Darius promised. "I will always find you, Kira. In this life and every life after." As the moon rose above them, full and bright and impossibly beautiful, Kira felt the ancient power in her blood sing in recognition. She was home. She was loved. She was exactly where she belonged. They'd left her to die in the snow, those wolves who'd feared what they couldn't understand. But she hadn't died. She'd awakened. And now, as Luna of Midnight Ridge, as the mate of Alpha Darius, as the protector of all who fell under her care, she would make sure that no one else ever felt as abandoned, as worthless, as invisible as she once had. She would be the light in the darkness. The hope for the hopeless. The proof that even the most broken things could heal, could rise, could become extraordinary. The pack had left her to die. But the Alpha had smelled her blood, had claimed her as his mate, had helped her discover the power sleeping in her veins. And together, they would rule, not through fear, but through love. Not through dominance, but through protection. Not as conquerors, but as guardians. Luna and Alpha. Mate and mate. Forever. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you so much for watching. I hope Kira's journey from rejection to power, from Omega to Luna, resonated with you. This is a story about finding your strength even when the world tells you you're worthless, about discovering that your greatest power often lies in the very thing others try to destroy. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more werewolf content like this, make sure to hit that like button, it really helps the channel grow. Drop a comment below and let me know what you thought. Did you expect Kira to have Luna blood? Were you satisfied with how she handled Morgana? What other werewolf stories would you like to see? And here's the thing, if you don't like this video, if you don't subscribe, comment, and share it with someone who'd enjoy it, then you're basically saying you're on Beta Soren's side. Remember him? The guy who dragged an innocent woman into the forest, beat her, and left her to die in the snow because he was too weak and afraid to recognize her true power? Yeah, that guy. So don't be like Soren. Don't let fear and ignorance win. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our pack of readers who believe in second chances, hidden power, and the kind of love that changes everything. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, remember, the moon sees everything, and your power is waiting to be awakened.